Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for a new movie spoiler review. And I'm here to cover uh, John Wick Chapter 4. And I know I usually wait until like a new movie come out and I go see it Thursday. I usually wait till by Saturday to stream it. I mean, not stream it, but to uh do a full blown spoiler review, but I'm gonna be kind of busy for a few hours on Saturday, so I want to make sure I get this situated uh beforehand. But once again, please let's try to get this video to like at least 100 likes. Let me know what you thought of John Wick Chapter 4 and the franchise as a whole. And yeah, but first things first, I gotta say, people can be so annoying and have zero movie etiquette. This is the third time. It didn't take me out of the movie, but this is like a third time in recent memory that I can recall when, you know, ignorant people cannot behave themselves when you're in the theater, when you're around other people trying to enjoy the film. I'm not talking about how like people might cheer at a certain thing happening on screen or cry or get shocked or something like that, because that's a visceral reaction that if the audience are in sync, we tend to do. Like we all cheered when all the heroes came back from the dead in Avengers Endgame. You know, that type of in sync. But in the third act, you know, somewhere around the beginning of the third act, there's this woman who I'm not sure if she is suffering from anything at all. I didn't say anything. It just kind of feels that way, maybe. So I didn't have any kind of like, you know, shushing or anything like that. It was somebody, she eventually stopped, but it was almost 10 minutes, when she just kept, responding to every little thing that was going on. You know, like, you know, F you this and F you that to the villain of the film and everything like that. Like she's the only one in the room. Drove me crazy. It's probably like almost worse compared to like when I went to see Venom 1, and I'm trying to sit down in my chair to go when a movie's about to start, and his father with his kids jumping up and down on my seat, and he has the nerve to say like, "Oh, is this your seat?" No, I like staring at seats. Yes, it's my seat. Get your kids to sit down, stop like being hyper. And then it was when the third time was when I went to see the first Shazam movie, and like a couple bringing their little toddler along, apparently got no babysitter that you can choose from, has this whole little play set going on, you know, sitting, you know, this kid down on like a little blanket on, first of all, it was on a nasty, well, we just started, so it didn't, I guess, pure nasty, but I still don't trust it, sitting your kid on the ground like that while he's playing with his toys while trying to enjoy the film, and you two not paying attention because you're too busy making out. Yes. Oh my God. Excuse me. Should have got some halls before I started straight. But anyway, I just want to point out I thoroughly enjoyed this film. Man, it's like John Wick franchise is probably the best action movie franchise that I've seen, that not only maintains its momentum but exceeds it every movie. In my mind, unprecedented. And it's like the flip effect of what we got from like the Fast and Furious franchise, which by the way, I dropped up after the fifth one. I think that was the last decent one I cared for, but you can tell there was like, you know, wavering on quality when they started to lean into like the nonsensical stuff. And I know there's tons of Fast and Furious fans out there in the world uh, that loves this, nonsensical stuff. And it's like, oh my god, they can like go leap 10 feet in the air, do all these little vertical tricks, and like, it's like they meet the Transformers, like it's like there's suspending uh your disbelief, but you're asking too much for the human brain. Okay, sometimes it's not okay to just digest whatever nonsense that's given to us in the theater. And I equate, if you're using food references, the Fast and Furious franchise, after a certain period, became empty calories, like cake or candy. Because the first few movies, it's like a niche. It's where it's like you combine a typical cop drama or heist film mixed with cars, which is like a cool like gimmick that was very new in the early 2000s. But then you become a parody of yourselves, and it's like you just like who it's just like, I don't know, you just might as well just turn to just make a NASCAR movie or something, because it's basically what it is. You're just trying to do the weirdest things with all these cars, and it's like it's not even about anything anymore. At some point I want to do a review on like at least the first couple of Fast and Furious movies to show you, there was some groundedness a bit. Now after 6 through 10 film, it's just, how can we break the laws of physics to flip off every scientist around the globe? It's like, oh, you jump off a ramp with like a hook attached to it just to catch a bomb attached to a helicopter to fling it to this tank that's sitting on top of this boat 20 yards away that's about to crash into the side of the Grand Canyon. All this stuff. It's like, how can we fit Optimus Prime into this movie and team up with the Man in Black? Why? Any of that? Like I said, you're asking too much for the brain. You just throwing stuff into the bucket and calling it a movie. While the John Wick franchise, it's like steak, potatoes, asparagus. It's like a nice dinner where you're full, and it's like a lot of people have been pointing out certain, because like movies are like either think pieces, fun, entertainment, and and some kind of groundedness to it. This franchise is like a whirlwind of like a perfect recipe of all these different types of things you equate certain movies to. Like, of course you can have your fun with it, but it's not dumbing down at all to the audience. Where it's like, in this movie, there's a lot of like Dante's Inferno allegories going on. Like, John's going through these levels of hell kind of situation. You even got Lawrence Fishburne, who returns as the Bowery King, reciting the passage as Dante is entering hell for the first time. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here, kind of situation. And there's a bunch of Buster Keaton references in a few of these films. So it's like, you can have like a whirlwind. I know it's like not everybody's meant for everybody, but it's just, I don't know. The Fast and Furious, it gets under my skin. It's just like nonsensical. Anyway, this movie is directed by Chad Stahelski, who worked on the other John Wick films. Can't talk. John Wick films. Got Keanu Reeves returning as John Wick, Donnie Yen as Kane, a blind assassin, Bill Skarsgård, because Skarsgårds are taking over this the film industry at this point, playing Marquise Vincent de Gramont, Lawrence Fishburne, Bowery King, Hiroyuki Sanada plays Koji, and I don't care what anybody says, I love the Mortal Kombat reboot movie. He's awesome as Scorpion, but the only bad part I did not care for is that bland protagonist is supposed to have been our eyes into the whole thing, which could just use Johnny Cage, and we could have rolled with that. We got Samir Anderson playing as Mr. Nobody, Ian McShane as Winston Scott, Clancy Brown as the Harbinger. We got Rina Sawayama as Akira, playing Koji's daughter, which, by the way, I did not know she was also a singer, and I think this is her first big, big time movie role. And of course, we got the Lance Reddick as Charon, who, excuse me, just only a few days ago, prior to this movie being released in America, had passed away. And it's just like, man, he was a great actor, and like he brings so much gravitas in any role he's in, and he did a lot of voiceover work, which is, oh my god, phenomenal work. Like his role as like that Aloy's kind of sort of ally in the Horizon Zero Dawn games, as well as the leader of the Titans in the Destiny game, who, by the way, made the special event where they, had this, online funeral thing to salute and, give pay their respects to Lance Reddick and all he brought, to the story of Destiny. So, I mean, he will be greatly missed. He is a phenomenal actor and a person. So yeah, it was a lot. I couldn't even believe it when I found out a few days ago. And it honestly made me want to replay Destiny again, especially after they had this Lightfall thing. I'm going to, some point in April, buy the game again, the light thing, and probably start from scratch, because it's been such a long time and so many different events. Is the way I can start from where I was. I might as well start from scratch, because I was a warlock, so like, which, by the way, I know people going Google Gaga over the Last of Us TV show, which I'm not a fan of Last of Us. I didn't watch the TV show. Apparently everybody loves it, but I'm like, whatever. But Destiny, you talk about something needs a TV show. Destiny definitely deserves like a TV show, as much story is involved in that game franchise, with all these different aliens and like, stories behind all these characters, and like the Iron Banner and like Lightfall and all this other stuff. Like, it's definitely worth, maybe not live action, but definitely some kind of animated project. Man, it is just great. Anyway, of course, if you recall, after the events of part 3, where John goes to meet with like the man that's above the high table to try to strike a deal in order to stop the debt on his life, because everybody would just keep on coming until somebody gets lucky, and he knows that at some point somebody at some point will get lucky and manage to kill him. But I kind of imagine he has that kind of same thought process as Kratos when he made that line in the recent game, "Death can have me when it earns me." And I imagine like Wick probably has that same mindset. Death can have me. Death can have me when it earns me. I love that line. Uh, uh, so the only deal the person gives to Wick in exchange for giving him not only his finger but his wedding ring that belongs to Helen attached to it, in order to you know, give him safe passage back to New York so he can, you know, take out Winston because he refused to step down as the manager of the Continental. And of course, he won't take out his own friend because he's not that kind of guy. As he kept telling people, I'm not that guy anymore. So through this whole entire onslaught in the Continental, Winston parlays with the Judicator, and of course, thinking he got his hotel back and everything like that, he shoots John, who topples over because he's wearing like a bulletproof, you know, clothing. He topples over the side of the building, lands on top of like, you know, metal stairs outside of the buildings and awnings and stuff like that, and eventually got picked up by the Bowery King in order for them to work together to enact their revenge against the High Table for taking what was theirs. And of course, here now, John goes back to the desert now that he remembers where to go, goes back to, is a different person now, but back to the guy who's the head of the High Table, shoots and kills him, then goes back to New York. While at the same time, Winston and Caroline go meet with the Marquise, who, you know, with the resources of the High Table at his disposal, and the Harbinger, who's not picking sides, he works for the High Table, and it's like, okay, this whole entire building is going to get demolished as soon as the hourglass goes empty. Winston's devastated, but not as devastated as he is when the Marquis shoots and kills Charon, just to make a significant point about his part in all of this. And it's kind of like, you know, that actor literally died a few days ago. Now, there's no way they would have known he was going to pass away when his movie eventually comes out. But it's just like, oh man, it's kind of touchy looking at this. And so Winston organizes with the Bowery King to set up a meet with him and John at Chiron's gravesite. And he just want to, not only he's planning on trying to organize a way to get back his station and his Continental, you know, in New York, set back up. He wants to make sure, you know, he takes out this Marquise from taking out his best friend. But he realizes that excuse me, and everybody that knows John, who's still friends with him, keeps telling him that you can't kill them all. You can't kill everybody. No matter how good you are, and you're very, very good, eventually somebody was going to take you out. Eventually you'll get old. Eventually you'll be caught with your pants down. At some point, you cannot keep looking over your shoulder. So Winston tells him about this High Table duel that you can set up in order to win your freedom. Which, by the way, I'm thinking like, okay, why didn't you ever bring this up in the previous films? That is wild to me. But all he has to do is go back to his family, which is like the Romanian people, who has like a stake in the High Table, to help organize on your behalf in order to, you know, set up the duel. But since he tore up his ticket in the third film in order to get free passes to meet up with Halle Berry, in order to help, try to meet the guy above the table, he has no ties with him anymore. To reestablish ties again, he had to, because if you remember the guy at the beginning of the second film who was running that chop shop, yeah, he was the one in charge of the whole entire thing. But one of the people who was part of the high table, this German dude who was like this fat guy with like, he kind of looks like Colin Farrell's Penguin from the Batman movie. That's what he kind of reminds me of. That's what I thought immediately, with this horrible haircut. It's like I could not stand looking at that thing. He ended up killing this woman who took over the guy's spot. This German guy kills the former boss of the Romanian people that John was affiliated with, so she can't retaliate, but she said, oh, I will establish your ticket again if you kill him for us and bring back proof. So he goes, and along the way, I'm getting ahead of myself. John goes to Osaka, Japan, to the Osaka Continental, where he meets up with Koji, another friend of his, and his daughter. And his daughter like doesn't want him there because we're definitely by this point gotten around, because the first two films took place on actually up until like from the first to the third film it took the course of 2 weeks. So this is like, let's say maybe another week. So this is like nearly a month's time, almost a month's time of this entire adventure John's been on. So definitely word has eventually gotten around about the exploits of going on in New York and the Continental being deconsecrated and everything like that. So the daughter doesn't want him anywhere near their Continental or her father. But Koji is good friends with John, as well as this assassin played by Donnie Yen, Kane, who's like a blind assassin, kind of same way he was in Rogue One. Not an assassin, but the blind, martial artist. And he has a daughter, and of course the Marquis pulled that kind of string, forcing Kane to forcing his hand to serve the table. So he has to go all the way to Japan to deal with that. Of course, Koji is like, he is a guest under my house, so there won't be any business here, even though it's like the people the Marquis sends or his close kind of guard. It's like, oh no, this ain't the normal rules. Of course, like, the Marquis is like kind of like, even like the Harbinger pointed out to him later on in the film, like, you're kind of, and Winston, you're pushing the boundaries of your standing with how the rules work in our world. Yes, we want to deal with John Wick, but you're you're skating on thin ice with us yourself, because he is an arrogant prick. So because Koji is, earlier was explaining to John, it's like, you can't kill everybody. It is, he's having this nice moment, because I love these two just veteran actors just chewing up the scenery with these two dialogues. But Koji says his man to, like, there's like a full-on, just almost like an army on army kind of fight kind of situation, or at least gang on gang, in this Osaka Continental, which really makes me want to go to Japan so bad. I want to go to Japan so bad. It's like one of my bucket list places to go. I love that country. So everybody just just kicking ass this whole entire scene. And kudos to the cinematography and the director who's was a expert choreographer. So it's rarely any edits here, because this is not like Taking, where it takes like 20 shots for Liam Neeson to hop over a fence. None of that stuff, and even like Kane's trying to handle this peacefully, because he just wants John that we can just leave. I just give me him so we can get the heck out of here. I don't want to be here. I know you don't want me to be here. You don't want them to be here. We just need John so we can just get the heck out of here. But of course, Koji, it's like, even though he considered him a friend too, it's like, I'm not giving up my friend. So he's giving him, trying to give him safe haven, but that's been out the window since New York. Of course, you get to see Donnie Yen just, kicking ass all through this entire scene. And then, of course, because this is the, Marquis' right-hand guy, who's this? Shadi, I think that's how you pronounce it, Shadi, who's like the Marquis' right-hand guy, catching one arrow out the air. It's like, okay, like he's built from different kind of stock, and they bringing in like, just remember like those like stormtrooper SWAT kind of guys in the previous film, going into New York Continental, in that kind of gear that stops all kinds of bullets and stuff like that, so you have to work extra hard to get underneath that and kill them. You got the same kind of guys, but more samurai like type of armor, and it's like all kinds of badass. And so like everybody's is fighting and everything like that, and of course you get some like hilarious moments in a lot of these fights, like what's her name, Akira, shooting arrows at one of the guys, SWAT guy's legs, so John can like kill him. He just hanging there, and it was funny. There's a lot of funny moments, and you talk about realism of an action film that you really don't see, like in the second film. He runs out of bullets. I mean, like all of the films, he runs out of bullets. People run out of bullets. It's not infinite ammo. It's not like the 80s or the 90s. They run out of bullets. He throws guns at people. It's like, and like he gets nunchucks, and it's like he just whacking fools. He's not as good as like Bruce Lee, but you get Bruce Lee vibes from Keanu Reeves. Of course, you can go online, look behind the scenes of Keanu Reeves training for all these John Wick films. It's phenomenal. This guy is fantastic. I really hope to work with this guy, in an acting position, because that'll be like a dream come true for me, as an actor myself. But he's just like walloping people. Of course, he does the thing with the Bruce Lee when the nunchucks, not as fast, but he's still doing it, and he just whacking fools with this thing, and just like bludgeoning people. It's awesome. And of course, you get a sword fight between Donnie Yen and Harada, Sonata, not Harada. I'm blanking. And of course, these two supreme actors, who I also would love to work with, because like, oh my god, these guys are just top notch, guys, and they haven't missed a step. Like Donnie Yen's like 59 right now. It's like, honestly, he's not missing a step at all. And of course, he managed to unfortunately kill Koji, and like Akira, who couldn't do nothing about it because she's like wounded from like a it was like a knife wound or a gunshot to the her like right side, I think. She's still alive, but it's like she's can't like fight at full capacity. So eventually, thanks to Koji's insistence, uh, uh, John found like a back way out. He went on a good train, met up with Akira, and made her a promise that he will deal with, get back at those who took her father from her. And I love her in this. She is amazing. So, Winston organizes a meetup with John at, Charon's gravesite. Tells him about the duel. So now John goes back to his people. They told him to go take out this guy. Oh, and by the way, along the way, there's this Mr. Nobody, played by Shamir, who has this dog, and like, of course, it's kind of funny because everybody kind of liked this guy, his charisma, where he's just like a cool dude, and it's like meet up with a Marquise, and it's like, which comes kind of like a power move on each other's part. Mr. Nobody, who's supposed to be like some kind of expert tracker, he says like, nah, it's like the money's not there yet for me to actually kill him, so I'm not going to kill him. So he negotiating, to 23 million plus a double for his 401k kind of situation. And everybody in the audience like, that's what I'm talking about. But the Marquise shook his hand, then takes his hand, put a knife through it, and says like, we got a deal if you pull your hand through the blade so we can agree by blood kind of situation. And of course, I'm worried for that dog. I'm not a dog person, but given how like, the situation in John's dog in the first film, people like are very edgy about, because in the third film, Halle Berry's dog got shot, but the dog had like a bulletproof vest on, so the dog was all right. But everybody's keep worrying about dogs in this film. I mean, this franchise. So he was like, no, because the dog keeps barking about the attack. It was like, no. And he had to calm the dog down. So he pulls the blade through his palm, right between his fingers, and so now he's in his feelings about that, understandably. So he eventually tracks John down to like this German guy part of the high table, and of course him, Donnie Yen, and the tracker sit down at the table, seemingly about to do this whole Casino Royale kind of thing, and he's trying to see who got the better hand, because like, oh, this is very interesting, like you want to kill him, he wants to kill me, and you trying to like him, and it's like it's almost like a joke, yes. And it's like of course the guy's cheating, so they end up killing like this dude's guards. And of course John is like chasing this guy down, and he shoots him in the butt, and it's like he's limping along. But this is like a very heavy set dude, but he's fighting like a martial arts thing, and he's doing high kicks, and it's like, okay, pause. Okay, I'm enjoying this so far. I don't hate this, but come on, this heavyset dude going toe to toe with Keanu Reeves, a guy who's pretty slender, knows martial arts, and significantly taller than him, and therefore has significant reach than this guy, is getting having like a hard time taking this guy down. I mean, yeah, he had like a bit difficult time with that sumo dude in the third film, but he's definitely bigger, and it's like sumos have got different martial art kind of thing to them, and of course it's a little bit different because the sumo uses weight to his advantage, and this guy, I don't know, he's doing moves that he should be tuckered out from trying to achieve. like doing high kicks and stuff like that. How often do you train in that kind of thing to pull that off effectively without pulling something? I don't know. It's just like, it kind of like, okay, really. But he puts, he subdues John for a moment, and he sends the guy, his men down, because they're in this kind of club area where it's kind of like a waterfall thing, displays pouring all over the place. Here's another thing that kind of like, it was the German guy and the crowd of people here that are dancing like goofballs, like doing all this stuff while little gun fire is firing, while people are fighting with axes and everything like that, and it took y'all like a few minutes to even take knowledge of it. I know it's kind of the same thing, even though they're playing kind of the same music in the first two films, but in the second film where John is dealing with like Common and a group of his minions at over in Italy, trying to take out like Common's ward that he's supposed to be looking after, the people in the crowd were reacting. And even in the first film when like he's trying to take out Greyjoy in the club, people were reacting when John was taking out a bunch of guards. It was reacting quick. It didn't take them 2 minutes to acknowledge what the heck is going on. It was like the first gunfire fighting. Everybody got that moment's attention, or at least starting to run. That was like, okay, why did it take so long in this film for the crowd of people to start reacting? I mean, these are nitpicks what I'm pointing out, but I just want to make sure like I make a point about certain things that when I'm doing these reviews, what I probably did not really care for, that I took notice of. I made a point to keep that in mind. So anyway, John finally beats the guy, and I'm thinking he's going to take his head off or something to show proof, but he takes his stupid grill, and it's like, or at least a tooth or the entire grill, which, by the way, is another thing, is an even nickier of the picks. Who has grills nowadays? Because, like, honestly, even when they were popular, I thought they was, stupid looking. And for a time, you eventually find out those things give you really bad breath. But it's like, it's so dumb. It's just so dumb. So he shows the lady, I didn't even give you guys the name, Katya, who's running the Ruska Roman gang now. And so they mended the ties, so now they put in a word for the duel. It goes to Paris, where they set up meet, neutral stuff. Nobody will do anything to John or Winston. And even though the Marquise is like talking to Winston about this organization, even though it's written in ink that they agreed to this, he's like, why would I need to do this? But Winston reminds him, even you are not above the high table. If they agree to this, you're going to have to follow it. So because this bad guy here, his behavior is no different from the one in the second film. And so they decided to meet up at the Sacré Coeur. I could be pronouncing that. A Day Sacré Coeur. I know I'm mispronouncing that, but you can easily look it up. And had to fight there. And it turns out to be like those classic take 20 paces and fire kind of shooting duels, which I'd never seen in a long time in anything. Oh, I haven't seen it in real life either, but I'm just saying, it's like, when in a movie you get to see that ever again, except like those old westerns. But anyway, so John gets, suited and booted thanks to the Bowery King, and they have this the three, John, Winston, and Bowery has this nice conversation about like what they want on their gravestone, because they brought about like Caroline. It's like, because Winston's like was having a tough time trying to figure out what to put on Caroline's gravestone, because like I knew this man for many years. He was my closest friend. How can you sum all that up into just a few words? And John had this nice little moment where he's about to leave out because they're on this little speedboat trying to get him close enough to the location so he can like take the rest of the way there without getting any kind of interference. He still does, but at least he's halfway to the location. He turns to them and says, "Loving husband, that's what I want on my gravestone." And that was like a nice little moment because like he even if he like somehow gets taken out, that's what he wants on his gravestone, and he wants his friends to make sure that that one little wish is honored. And it's like, I don't even know what I even conceive what I want on my gravestone. It's like, and of course, you hope to have like something like when you get married, like loving wife, loving husband, loving father kind of situation. That's kind of standard. But I'm thinking like, okay, I want something unique, because I know, typical me, because friends and family who knows me, it's like, oh yeah, that's so you would do something like that. I want something unique tacked on, because I want like a little stamp thing. Unless something comes along where I get Wolverine healing powers, I can live forever, or at the very least vampire powers, so I could just be immortal. I want something funny and unique. I don't know what it is yet, but something that's uniquely me. Anyway, so he's walking along the Paris streets, and of course, Hitman starts coming after him, and of course, it's like cars are flying, and he's getting hit while he's throwing like other people into cars and everything like that. It's like, man, the cinematography and the stunt work is just phenomenal. And this franchise has long since been overdue for some kind of award for cinematography and especially stunt work, because this is like the stunt work in here. There's a moment where I forgot what that architecture is in Paris, where there's this giant rectangle thing with a hoop, like with like a like a oval hole in the center. I forgot what it's called, but it's like a car circle around it, and it's like you got like there's lots of overhead shots going on in this film, and it's like this is like a phenomenal work where it's like John is drifting in circles around a group of guys who's getting out of their cars, and he's shooting at them, and while he's drifting his car, and it's like bang, 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 and it's like, it's just phenomenal work. Honestly, phenomenal work. Excuse me. So, he goes. He's still being dealt with by Shaddai, but Mr. Nobody's there too, and he's like kind of sort of defending John because he wants to kill himself, because he's having mixed feelings, because Marquise is like a hole, but John is his hit and he has to do it, but it's like he's giving like John like I guess like a bit of a chance. He sends his dog to attack, and John eventually gets away, and they heads to this like abandoned apartment where like just gunfight ensues, and it's so awesome. John takes one of the guy's shotguns. It almost looks like it's shooting fireballs, but I guess it's kind of like powered kind of shotgun pellets, because it kind of looks like fireballs being shoot out, and it's setting people on fire. And you get this overhead kind of camera shot where he is following John through these different rooms, and he's shooting people down, and he's taking bullets in the back, but it's like, of course, his suit is bulletproof, and it's like he's, you know, just taking fools out, and then it's down to him and Mr. Nobody, and of course he's got Mr. Nobody in a chokehold, while then they see like Shaddai coming in, and he's about to shoot a dog. John lets Mr. Nobody go to shoot at that guy to prevent another dog on his watch being killed. And it's like, of course, that's going to happen. Everybody was hoping that happens. And of course, now Mr. Nobody's in his debt because he loves that dog. So then, you know, this is when John jumps out the window and lands on this van, and it's like he lands. It's like a hard fall, and everybody in the audience, and including me, was like, "Damn!" It's like okay, his bones. He had at least to have like 5 broken bones at this point, at the bare minimum, because this dude is still pushing on. And then of course he's walking along, and now he looks up, and there's these several flights of stairs along the sidewalk that he gets on top of to get to where he needs to go. And it's like everybody in the audience, including me, is like, "Oh my god." It's like, "Oh my god." And he's checking his watch. Excuse me. He's checking his watch, and it's like he only got like, you know, maybe like 10 minutes to get to, because they gotta meet at sunrise, which, you know, it's like at 6:03 Winston said, or something like that. And otherwise, if nobody, because like Marquise has Kane step in as his chosen champion in his stead, so they have to meet to be there by sunrise. If neither one goes there, they forfeit, and they automatically gets executed on sight. So John is trying to make his way up there, and of course a bunch of other assassins coming up out of the shadows, and of course he's well, I'm thinking in my head, well, at the very least, your mind's off the whole length of the stairs, because now you got to deal with these guys. So he's taking all these guys out. He's going behind the pole, and, you know, avoiding like any other gunshots. And now he's like literally halfway until Shaddai shows up and kicks him right back down all those stairs he came up so far. And it's like, man, he's losing time, and he can, it's like it's too much. And then Kane shows up and decides to help him along the way up those stairs and take out all those guys. This is where, at that moment, in my mind, what I would have wished to happen is to see all the living allies of John show up from the past 3 films. Well, even at the start, from when he off that boat, so they can get him halfway through there. It would have been so awesome to see Halle Berry, John Leguizamo, Common, just, you know, a bunch of people along the way that John has like a shaky allegiance with, or a full-blown friendship with, like, or like a couple of people from Italy, the Italian manager of the Continental there, you know him, and, you know, somebody, you know, his like a consigliere show up to like help him out along the way, not to like stop, not to, like interfere with the duel, but make sure John gets there on time to make it fair. Because obviously the Marquis is trying to make sure he doesn't make it on time just to assure his win. Because it kind of reminds me of like if you watch Yu-Gi-Oh with Maximilian Pegasus doing all this cheating stuff just to assure he gets the win. So that would have been so awesome to see all these other previous allies that we've seen along the way, this long adventure, show up to help out John. But it's still cool, but with Donnie Yen. So and of course Mr. Nobody steps in with his dog and attacking at the nuts, and it's like, it's like you hurt my dog, boom, and takes Shaddai out. Because like just like with Halle Berry's dog, and like she did not hesitate to shoot her former teacher for shooting at her dog, even though the dogs live. It's like nah, you're done in my eyes. So they finally make it, and it's like a funny line with Donnie Yen where the Marquis, because the Marquis and Winston are responsible for making sure they hand their champions their bullets, one each, and they take like paces, and then they fire and they keep doing it until one of them drops dead. And when the first bullet is given to Kane, the Marquis is like, remember your daughter, and Donnie Yen is a quick like fuck off. And it's like everybody just laughing at that. It was so funny. It's just that line delivery. So the first fire of the rounds go off. They wound each other in the arms. Then John gets wounded in the shoulder, and Kane gets it in like the side of his gut. Then they after he's fired, they go a little bit closer, and Winston gives John a bullet, and they say this line that Koji reiterated earlier in the film, that John, Winston, and Kane know very well, and it's almost like a signal to all three of each other, where they send the third firing happens. John gets one on the side of his stomach, and he's still alive. And then that's when the Marquis jumps in. It's like, it's like, I want the last execution to be for me. And so it's like the Harbinger's like, go ahead. And Kane says like, does this mean my daughter is safe? And like the Marquis says, yeah, it does. And so he hands like the gun to the Marquis. The Marquis puts a bullet in there, and like Winston, and just like a show of just awesomeness, it's like, you arrogant ass, he didn't fire his round. And they look with like Marquis' dumb look on his face, sees that John did not fire, because like we all just assumed like they both fired their rounds, but John just pretended to fire. No, what happened was, at least what I think it was, someone might correct this. What I think, because that's one of the first thoughts I had, was Winston giving John a blank, because I knew they both fired, because I know I wasn't misremembering that. They both fired, but Winston gave him like a dummy blank. And he had a real bullet hidden and reloaded while he's pretending to be hurt on the ground. And then John takes his shot and shoots point blank in the Marquise's head and takes him out. And John Wick's debt is lifted, or at least the debt on his life is lifted. Kane's daughter is safe. He's can be fully retired and go to her. Winston's reinstated as the manager of the Continental. It'll be rebuilt and everything like that. It's going back to normal for him. But this part, it's like, oh my God, I didn't think we would get to this part. But John, tells Winston, like, can you make sure I get home? And he, Winston said, of course. And John just starts taking off his like belt and everything. Oh, by the way, this is another funny moment. Right before the duel start, both respected men take off their, bulletproof jackets and other weapons. And it's like, of course, John is like taking off his jacket, and there's a bunch of, bullets falling to the ground because he's been shot so many times along the way. It's so funny. But he's, taking off his belt and all this other stuff, and walking down the steps, and he's sitting down, and he's looking at the sunrise, and then he, falls to the side, and he dies from like massive blood loss at this point, and obviously broken bones. It's probably just went on sheer adrenaline this whole doggone time, man, it's never thought we'll get to this point. John Wick dies. I thought we could get at least maybe one more film or something from this. I think there's supposed to be a fifth film, but I think like Keanu Reeves and Chad Stahelski is gonna take a break from the franchise for a hot while. But John is then buried next to his wife Helen with the words "loving husband" on his gravestone. And there's apparently an end credit scene, which I didn't think there was. I found out a day later. There's an end credit scene, and I assumed it was going to be like, oh, like John's actually alive. He's pretending so he can finally live in peace. Nobody will try to really bother him for good. But no, it's just Akira showing up to Kane, really trying to, plan on enacting her revenge for the death of her father. But man, this movie is so good. This entire franchise is so good, and like eventually I want to get like a complete like box set. But at this point, you can always just watch it streaming, I guess, the complete series, because I love this franchise. It's one of my favorite franchises outside like superhero related stuff like the MCU. This is phenomenal work. But leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought about, if you saw this movie, let me know what you thought about it, what you thought about John Wick franchise as a whole. Let's try to get this video to 100 likes as well. Please, we're getting close to the 400 subscriber goal, and once we reach that, I will be doing a Hot Ones challenge video to celebrate the milestone. I will actually buy like the hot sauces from the show, try them all out while I'm answering all your questions via Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, while I try out each of the hot sauces. And I was planning on doing this spoiler review a lot earlier, at least almost like an hour and a half ago, but my Streamlabs was getting kind of like wonky with this lagging latency issues. I had to correct that before I could actually get this up, so I guess it's fixed now. But now it's getting kind of late, and I don't want to sit there and lose kind of like the energy and pass out midstream while covering a couple of other things. There's a comic book review that we'll be doing with Miles Morales origin story, as well as a TV show review of season 1 of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney anime. But I'll do that tomorrow. after I get back from getting my hair done. Maybe I'll stop off and get to the gym, maybe if I'm feeling up to it afterwards. So some point tomorrow afternoon, I will, getting close to the evening, I will be doing a new, some couple of reviews. Oh, as well as my spoiler review on Emperor's New Groove. That's another one I'm gonna be doing. So I got 3 things doing tomorrow. So I got this one out the way, but I will see you guys tomorrow. So have a good night. Take care. Be well.